All right, let's continue our discussion. So, after I kind of created this model, this visual to help understand the architecture of and structure of this formless thing called a psychological block, a mental block, a hang up, uh, you know, that it's kind of numinous. It's kind of vague. It's like abstract. It's like there's this cloud and it's causing all these problems. So how can I organize this, and create a structure that I can then rationally look at it? And so I came up with that construct. I came up with that symbol. And I used relatable symbols. It wasn't a chalice and a sword and a pentacle, and an empress on a throne. It was my sink. And, and so it's very much real time reality. These are the symbols I'm living in. I would almost say that should be the definition of reality. Whatever symbols have taken form that, you're interacting with might be the only way to know where we are in the universe, you know? So let's go into hidden pathways, these mysterious side doors, back gates. And I like to think of it as maybe there's a theater and there's someone working the lights behind the audience. Like this is an old fashioned theater, and someone's working the curtain, and you see there's doors and there's rooms, in the balcony. And then there's props going on. There's pulleys and there's cogs and wheels that make the curtains open and close. And then there's lighting backstage. And then there's a, a balcony or a deck up there. And then underneath the stage, there's trap doors where things can drop down and quickly. And there's even lights under there, and there's storage space. And then there's all those props and all that storage room kind of backstage for the props. And there's stairs on and off. And then there's the back room where the stars are or actors. And so when you really wait, so here we are in the game of life, and we're probably either on stage or sitting in the audience, but we don't really understand or see all the mechanics going on. So kind of like the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy goes through Oz to get to the wizard and finds there's this little old man just like at a terminal, like a computer keyboard, pushing buttons and stuff, and he's nothing greater than she is. And and she had the power all along. And it's kind of like that. The unveiling of the mysteries is should be anticlimactic, yet very personally empowering. So let's look at let's look at Christianity a little bit. It's not so much about worshiping this externally projected image called Christ, whether he existed or didn't. That's the image. And if you're mistaking the mythology and the symbol as something literal, which could and could not be, don't get trapped by it. Maybe that's your clog. And instead realize it's a reflection of something, an inner potential, your own higher self, your own holy guardian angel, that you should be doing the banishing ritual of the pentagram. So in any occultism, especially when it goes into high magic is usually in the realm of summoning entities. If you're into the art of summoning, you're moving into the realm of high magic. So it's always been suggested to use the banishing ritual, and it's always suggested before you do magic, put on your crown, which would be put on your Christ. So by definition of those two things, you really shouldn't be doing black magic. And if you are doing the banishing ritual, you're messing up your black magic. If you're doing protection magic to do black magic, you're messing it up. So that could be why you're failing at being an evil wizard or a dark wizard. Just throwing that out there. Because if you're at one with the dark, then what would you be protecting yourself from? Yeah. So I'd say most errors and misconceptions in everything that we do, it's humans not understanding, not being able to reason, mistaking things. So the Fool card was inserted into the tarot deck because it's only through our folly, it's only through our misunderstandings that we become wise. And so don't get mad at yourself that you've been doing it all wrong. Or don't get mad at yourself that you don't understand certain things. Or, we learn through trial and error. So I will not get card readings from anyone who's not an initiate. An initiate is someone who knows Kabbalah to an extent. Because you can't truly understand what the tarot deck is until it's been plugged through the Tree of Life. So if you don't have a basic understanding of the Tree of Life, you probably don't know how to process your visions, your dreams, and the experiences you're having of a magical nature. Anyways, kind of moving on, this then extends to psychology. Why would I ever go to a psychologist or a counselor who doesn't have a grasp on how to make models of psychology? Who can't mind map. So I see people in different fields of education who can't think for themselves. They've learned a system, but they assume it's a fact. Mathematics is very creative. It creates models. And the closer, like an equation is a model and it spits out certain answers. Like it's a machine. And you put something in, it gets processed and it spits out an answer. Same with the Tree of Life. You put something within the Tree of Life, you run it through the process or the machine, it spits out answers. It spits out your formula. Magic is formulaic. It's a language. When you really understand symbolic language, then it spits out answers that are useful. So you know how good something is by its usefulness. Now, you can start putting the wrong things in it, and then it's not working, and then you go, this isn't working. So a lot of people put the wrong things into religion. They put the wrong things into tarot. They put the wrong things into astrology, and it has limited results. I'm like, well, that machine is a water pump, and you're putting dirt in it, or you're putting mud in it, or you're putting orange juice in it. You're not getting the maximum benefit from what that machine was designed for. So then we go into fortune telling. Fortune telling for astrology, fortune telling for with the use of tarot isn't exactly what it was made for. So you're going to get limited function out of it. Anyways, moving on. Like I'm not going to go to my math teacher and have him solve my emotional problems. That's not what it's designed for. A lot of people do that. They transfer. It's called transference. It happens in psychology. It happens in other branches of care and self-help. They assume the person can help them out. It's like in a soap opera, the patient, like the doctor kind of knows people in the neighborhood, and then maybe all the women go and talk about their marital problems with the doctor while they're going for their checkup. And that's dirty water. and it causes problems. And yeah, that person may give you some good advice, but that's why we have specialists. We have marriage counselors. They're actually trained, they have the information, and they will process it through the model that they learned through their education and give you tailored answers that should be more effective. And so the reality is you're going to the wrong person, you're transferring it. So this is what happens with religion. You're going to a religion for your own psychological needs, your medical needs, and it doesn't work. You go to religion uh, to help give you, faith and hope if you don't have it for yourself. So everything has limits, and people are always using, I always say people are using a shovel like a hoe. You know, a hoe is a tool that farmers use, and it kind of looks like a miniature shovel, and it's sharp, and it's used to rake weeds at the root so you don't have to go down and pick them up. A shovel is uh, is like a spade. It's like a metal object with a handle, and it digs into the earth, and it's used for digging, usually holes and ditches. Now, sometimes you need to dig, and sometimes you need to hoe, and sometimes you need to axe. And then people are too lazy, or they go, can I start hammering with my shovel? You know, and then they break their shovel. Or can I just hoe a little bit with my shovel? No. So it happens all the time. Haven't, and it's out of laziness. It's out of stupidity. And then you learn, oh, I just chipped my shovel. Now I have to go buy a new one. Or I just broke my rake, or I just broke my hoe, and oh, I just bent my, I broke my axe because you're using it in the wrong function. So you break your magic, you break your readings, you break your intuition, you break your religion, you break yourself because you're not using the right for what it was designed for, is what I'm saying. You break your doctor, your medical doctor, because he doesn't really like seeing you because you're sharing your emotional problems. You're trying to get a 2-for-1 special from a daddy figure or an authority figure. So we're the ones to blame for misusing systems. We misuse authority figures in whatever profession that they're in. So a lot of people transfer a lot to their guru. A lot of people transfer a lot to their psychic or their reader or their healer. They go, well, you do this, so you probably have some secret access to a power that I don't have. You've now licensed your power away. And that would be the wrong. And so, a lot of people give so much power to the so-called devil away. If you want to do that, go right ahead. But that's all you. The common denominator is you. You relinquishing your power. You giving, so it's you. So let's move on. Apparently we needed to rant into that a little bit more. Let's go back into our models. So I was looking at it in a very linear way, lines. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking circular. I was thinking, well, once I drew the earth in my first little event, I go, wait a minute, the earth actually has the moon rotating around it. So, and the next level of breaking down this energy block was emotional, energetic imprinting. And so I was like, oh, the moon, the orbit. Then I knew the next block was going to have to be. So it was just kind of unfolding itself with basic logic. What's after the moon? Kind of Mercury, if we're going towards the sun. Was logic, communication. We're talking about it. Then we created an identity about it. But then, once again, there was the second Mercury because it's orbiting around the sun. And I went, oh, okay. So then we rehash and echo it in through repetition. And so in alchemy, there's like 3 Mercuries and 2 Mercuries, and the caduceus has 2 snakes. And the initial conversation, the initial story we shared and talked about or told ourselves, and then the rehashing. Through repetition, we carry it forward in time. There's only the present moment. We make time. Bizarre. So, that's advanced. And I'm like, well, let's just stop there. From from the earth to the moon to Mercury to the sun. Right there, we could see that we were doing the tree of life. At the very bottom, the earth. Straight up, the moon. To the side, Mercury. And then we got to the sun. The self concept. Its inner projection, the image it made of itself, manifested into form. Straight down the middle pillar. But we took the side, we added Mercury. So now we're going to go. Psychology can be summed up as mirrors, reflections, and projections. We either own it and become the image, or we disown it and we project it out onto others. Now, this gets kind of cool. Mercury and Gemini, the sign of the twins, doing things with others. Guess who else likes things with others? All the other air signs. Venus. Venus learns about herself through others. Gemini just enjoys the mirror reflection. So we get mirroring. The moon mirrors, Mercury mirrors, and Venus mirrors. Is it any wonder then? So then we go back to our linear model. Is it any wonder that the 3 planets responsible for mirroring and projecting and are closest to the Earth? We get the glamour of Venus, the beauty, which is romance and falling in love with a partner. It's reflecting the juicy side of emotions. We get the actual moon, our subconscious, and our body. And then we get Mercury, information, practical, useful information of the matrix. Just information, talking, learning to talk. Our parents talk, we mimic back. We repeat the patterns. So we get Mercury. And all of this is happening, and what's behind the scene? The sun. So most people get trapped in this lower realm. And when it's kind of caught in their body and they're all up in their inner head, like they're trapped inside themselves, the moon. And they're trapped in their thinking and the programming, Mercury. Or they're trapped in attraction and repulsion, Venus. Now, who really would have thought that Venus was that response of, ooh, gross, and like, you know? And so, and basically most of psychology is the lower end of the tree of life. And how long have we had the tree of life model? Centuries, millennia. Who knows how long humanity has had this? And so why would I go to a psychologist who can't even do that? Or a therapist or a counselor? I see all this online coaching that you can do online, and it shows that the coach is living her best life, taking care of her kids and her dog, and then she's doing a few counseling sessions and making money. And all you need to do is talk to a therapist. If they don't know how to model things and they can't organize, what type of therapy are you getting? I would assume if I was going to go to a counselor or a therapist, besides mirroring myself back, which is the hallmark of basic therapy, you just be a mirror, help organize your client into a basic thinking model that they can then make use out of. So it needs to ground back into earth. So this simple model could make you very successful in your career, can make you very successful in your relationships. You can help yourself out. You can doctor yourself. Healer, heal thyself. Doctor, doctor yourself. Intuitive, intuit yourself. So in spirituality, a lot of people tend to throw out reason, throw out logic, and they try to just go all polarized one direction into visions, dreams, fantasies. And a lot of what they're playing around in, they're dumpster diving in their own head. And they don't understand you might want to clean out that dumpster, turn it into a chalice. So this is the purification process in mysticism. So the next thing the next logical conclusion we had the real world issue, practical model. Then it advanced itself into the next real world model, our solar system. I literally drew it out and I started drawing out the relationships. So there's a thinking process. Okay. And then it got into more advanced. Obviously, you move on. So from the sun, this self that creates a concept of itself through all it can do is project. Anyways, I started understanding a mirroring going on. Mercury mirrors because it mimics everything it hears and sees. To go through school and get straight A's, all you have to do is regurgitate, mirror what they want to hear. Do you need to understand it and know it? No. But you need to be good at mirroring it back. What does technology do but mirror back? What does everything do in this world but mirror back? So mirroring. And the first mirror is Mercury. And Mercury is a child. In astrology, you predict a birth by where Mercury is. Okay? Then you predict the sex by Venus and Mars. But Mercury is the child. And where do all our problems happen? On Earth. And what's around the Earth? The moon. And the moon mirrors, it reflects the sun's light. Supposedly, new science is reflecting the Earth or Earth's light from the sun. So there's mirroring of the Earth reflecting on the moon, then back at us. So who knows? But anyways, it mirrors. What does Venus do? She learns by mirroring others. So imagine you had a psychological thing and you didn't get what you needed. That thing that you need is going to be seen as attractive. So the object out there, the other, Venus represents the other. It's what you desire. It's what you're attracted to. And I think they should add what you're also repelled by. So that is a mirror, the other person that you're in relationship with. Venus, she's reflecting that. And so we got a lot of mirrors. Leo people are really good at mirroring back your greatness. They can take the energy and they can actually bend it and reflect it on themselves and make themselves light up. And so there's a lot of mirrors in these planets so close to the Earth, luminaries. And so Mercury can mirror the moon. Its mercurial nature as a metal reflects and mimics silver, soft, malleable, reflective. And so Mercury even goes so far to mimic the moon, where it becomes its twin. Venus. So we got a lot of mirrors going on. Then something changes, Mars. And that's where we start cutting things out. It's a different force. It's like, that's where we get separation. We get war. We get the 5 of wands. Because it's saying, not you, me, or not me, you. It starts to create division through hacking away. It creates separation. So all is one. We create separation to create the mirroring effect. We're one. But now that I'm separate, I get to experience myself looking at you and myself looking at me. Relationships. Everything is a relationship. So now we can see wherever there's a conflict or a separation, we look towards Mars in a chart. After all, and this is also the action, because of all this reflection, because of all my imprints and the events of my past, and the stuff I haven't let go of because it etched some deep, because I have a lot of energy on it. I talk about it, I resurrect it, bring it back to life by talking about it again and again on a repeating cycle. I'm probably going to take an action, you know, like join a cult, join a church, or wear a certain color to express myself. And when I do that, I'm creating separation and I'm defining myself and the character on stage. A useful function. I'm going to rebel, go through a rebellious stage in my life, Mars. And so it serves a positive function and a negative, And then after that, Jupiter. I'm going to learn something about it. Now that I've separated myself, now that I've really created, so I'm learning how I created my identity, how I created my ego, what I'm attracted to, what I'm repelled to, what are my wants and needs, how do I go about getting that void filled, and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to probably get an education. Wow, my mind's going to expand as I've now created myself on the stage of life, and then everything is bound in time. Everything has a time limit. I can only do this act so long before I get worn out and die, before I get bored with this and take it off, before I'm unamused. It's time to get off stage. Death, Saturn, time limits, and the duration of time, and the karmic consequences of what I did with Mars. I took an action. For every action, there is a reaction. I created separation. I talked in a harsh voice. I created war. I said no. There's going to be some positive consequences for this harsh action. There could also be negative. So I'm going to have to pay for it because I'm still in the hologram of smoke and mirrors. I'm in the illusion of the 3D matrix. To an extent, yeah, all is one. So everything I've done to myself. Another mirror. Karma, life is a feedback loop. So everything orbits. Everything's in orbit. So now I'm looking at everything very circularly. Do you see? I created my model in orbits. I understood it rationally with lines. I applied it. I understood it practically with symbols that relate to everyday life. This is the way a wizard thinks. This is the way you take something abstract like astrology and tarot, bring it back down to earth into practical use. Now I'm a little bit wiser. Saturn, Jupiter, and now it becomes a part of my higher character, my soul, something lasting eons. A lifetime versus a moment. So the moon is very momentary, Mercury very momentary. These little moments that we keep on repeat drag out through time, but once we've assimilated and digested them by breaking them down with the power of Mars, and now we understand them. So digestion, Jupiter for sure. Uh, and then that crystallization, the hardening into something more, I will take with me on the journey through my life. Those lessons that we really learned and grew through, usually suffering, because we like to focus on that. Saturn. So those big life lessons that change us on a fundamental level, like maybe moving out and then realizing home life wasn't so great. Really, becoming your own person, establishing yourself out in the world with a career of real education, Jupiter. Saturn, becoming the boss, making an income, being a success, adding to the world, subtracting from the world, Jupiter and Saturn. Making an impact, a legacy. You write about it, you write a book, you share it with the world, you die, but yet your information lives on, Saturn. So we're moving towards the impersonal planets, the more ascended planets that impact generations, lifetimes. And so just looking at our solar system, I've created a working model. That's what a wizard does. Now, when I'm talking to my client and I'm shuffling cards, or I'm looking at their astrology chart, they're not seeing the magic behind the curtain. The magic behind the curtain is my assimilated knowledge of these models. I'm looking at the cards, I'm looking at astrology, I'm looking at the tree of life, I'm looking at the actual planets moving now in orbit, and I'm talking to you now. Do you see I'm juggling 5 different planets or 5 different systems? That's wizards. That's what wizards are doing. And someone who can't see the mechanics, the thinking processes, the models, the education that I have, that I bring each moment, go, wow, I like the way you think. Or you blew my mind. Or where did you come up with that answer? Like I'm running it through 5 different systems and they're spitting out an answer that I can use, that I grew from. So some actions are inner, they're happening just on the mental level. Some are happening just on the emotional level. Some are happening on physical process level. And then some are happening more outwardly. So that's kind of like lifting the veil of, and so when you don't see it, you think it's religious, you think it's superstition, you think it's a mythological, oh, this person says he's a wizard and he's lighting candles and chanting words. We get caught up in the surface, the pentagram and the yod he vod he agla ie he adonai yod he vod he, and he's spinning around in circles and he's waving a sword and he's lighting a candle and that's doing something. I'm like, that's like the cherry on top. You didn't see me make the cake and put it in the oven and cool it down and put on the frosting and plan it days in advance. That was all part of the magic. You didn't see the transformation of my mind. You didn't, the problem solving skills, the mathematics going on. So you're working with mathematics in creative ways, and you're building relationships. We saw it flat in an astrology wheel. We saw it in orbit as the planets. We saw it linearly in the tree of life. And then so they were creating hidden pathways. So I now realize mirroring so much more. I now realize the mirror-like nature of our reality so much more. I realize projection. I realize repulsion and attraction so much more. I realize inner child. I realize graduation. I realize the whole story. All that realization because I decided to visualize a clog in the drain representing an energetic block.